Dear friends, today's talk will be first of the series of talks entitled Our Modern World. And this part, which we will discuss today, is Capitalism and Democracy. Democracy, historically speaking, is much, much older. It was technically first the name was introduced at ancient Athens and means the power of people, people's power, whatever, in around 5th century BC. So it is indeed comparing to other system, except of monarchy, quite old. It didn't last too well. It went into incredible problem. And though there was not yet capitalism, that will happen much later, it was already tainted by inequality. First of all, it became, who are the people? It doesn't mean human being, according to Athenians. First, they have to be Athenians. Well, that makes sense, but who is the Athenian? Woman? No. Slaves? Well, we shouldn't talk even about it. Slaves were on the same level as animals, but women, no. But moreover, you could be an Athenian, and if you were not a property owner, you were not allowed to participate in the democracy. And of course it will run into many problems which every democracy at present, various leaders fight, and it was becoming from time to time degenerate into oligarchy. Oligarchy means the power of few. It doesn't mean only like now we believe it is the very rich ones. Simply means power only of few. Like democracy, monarchy, it's again rule. Power of ruling by few. And it had the great support of Greek philosophers, etc., who were saying that demos or plebeians are not ready to participate in decisions because they are not educated, they are easy to manipulate, etc. And unfortunately, they were completely right. Well, capitalism, it's in its more or less present form. Well, you can trace it to the first banks in Italy or to the Egypt or whatever, but this modern capitalism for real started in the second part of 18th century with the big already companies, was joined with colonialism, big banks, etc. And it developed ever since. Democracy was, well, there was French Revolution, but it's difficult to call it democracy, officially was announced in United States of America in the, as we know, near the second part of 18th century, and it is more or less in the same format now. More or less, because each country has its own tweaks on what they call democracy. Now, let's jump to our 21st century and see that democracy and capitalism, or called liberalism, liberal capitalism, are absolutely interconnected. And I would say that the economical system of capitalism is much more important than democracy, because we have such completely authoritarian regimes like Saudi Arabia, which is absolute monarchy, and capitalism is their base. Capitalism is the base of something which is called even communist country, which is called China. It's everywhere, with the maybe, no, not maybe, with the exception of Cuba, because I'm not talking about where it is Venezuela, because it's a complete nonsense. It's a chaos dictature, and neither capitalism, neither Marxism, just a mess. Okay, so with the exception of Cuba, everywhere is capitalism. There was for a while a period since 1917 till 1989, which was a break in the capitalism, the huge Soviet Empire, which was, I would call it still capitalism. It's simply there was one single owner, which was the government, instead of many owners as usually in capitalism. And about Soviet Union, I will talk later, because unfortunately I know what Stalinism was firsthand. So I'm one of the few survivors who can talk about it. Okay, so where we are now, we have supposedly democracy, and it completely happily, with little moans, accepts the fact that the gap between the richest and the poorest is far much bigger than it probably was during various monarchies, slaveries, etc. Well, slaves were not human, but other non-slaves, there was no such incredible gap as it is now. So where is the power of people? Power of people is to work for rich to become richer. No, it's simple. They wouldn't be rich if not the other humans, which supposedly are equal. It is, I am laughing because it's such a criminal joke that people take it seriously and talk about democracy, etc. Yes, indeed, there are various elections which are manipulated by money and even mafia, by what not, by some other form of oligarchy. So I would rather don't call this whole thing democracy, but call it hidden oligarchy. Because we elect in democracy chosen few who rules. On top is the government, and there are various forms of parliaments, houses, senates. In Polish it's called Sejm. which supposedly rule, and they are elected by us, being very elegantly or less elegantly manipulated. Like looking at the country where democracy, modern democracy was born, United States, they elected person whom I'm sure you know because all media, without him, the media will be probably, it will be very bad season for them, called Donald Trump. I remember him, he seemed to be a clown. Now he is the president of United States. He's still a clown. Fairly ignorant, lying and whatnot. Rather not very attractive personality. And on top of that, a majority of the people voted against him, and he's the president. Now, so you see this democracy, it is based on some more, in Britain, some ancient laws created for whatever reasons, which nobody even may, except historian, remembers what it is. So that's our system. We are capitalism, which it's the basic thing is it's based on consumerism, on producing more and convincing others to buy more. Therefore, they are getting a profit. If you want to see how it functions, you can read the Marxist Capital. It's very long. Not much has changed, except there are bigger corporations, etc. They simply skim lots of money from the poor. And poor work, they work as well to get more money. So that's our system. And the system could be, we can have moral question about it. But unfortunately, on top of that, more and more recently, the system produces very dangerous ecological situation, very dangerous social situation, very dangerous life-threatening and culture-threatening situation, which if goes uncontrolled and evolves as it evolves, in spite of all the promises which politicians and so-called leaders make, can destroy at least our civilization or maybe our human race. And well, probably that's less possible, but good portion of organic life on the planet. That's the result of combination of democracy and capitalism. If you have any better explanation to it, please help me. I study the subject and come to such stark conclusion, which I am sharing. So I think it's enough for today, and see you soon. Goodbye.